Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your stack of sources, the articles, the research, the forgotten gems, and turn them into pure, distilled insight.
Today, we are putting away the eggnog and the carols. Definitely.
Yeah, because we're diving into a Christmas wish list that completely rejects traditional holiday sentimentality. It's all about raw, unflinching financial pragmatism.
That's right. Our focus today is the legendary Pearl Bailey, and specifically her spoken word masterpiece, 5-pound box of money.
And that's a key point, isn't it? That it's spoken word.
It's crucial. It's categorized as jazz and spoken word, and that style, that delivery, it allows her to be so much more candid, so much more direct than a traditional singer might be.
It really is less of a song and, I don't know, more of a manifesto. Most holiday pieces are about wishing for peace or love or maybe a white Christmas. But Pearl Bailey, she just cuts straight through all that seasonal fluff. She's not asking for magic.
No, she's demanding a very specific, quantifiable measure of currency.
So I guess our mission today is to unpack the financial philosophy that's kind of baked into this request.
Exactly. We're going beyond the humor to analyze the radical honesty of her demands. We're looking at the surprisingly transactional nature of her relationship with Santa Claus.
And why quantifying sentiment by weight, a 5-pound box, is maybe the most honest take on material needs ever recorded.
I think so.
The initial hook tells you everything, really. She looks Santa Claus right in the eye, figuratively speaking, and says, "Give Pearl something that would be of some use to me."
Utility, that's the principle.
Right out of the gate, she's rejecting decades of holiday fluff. And that utility, as you said, is immediately quantified by weight. We're not talking about a stocking stuffer.
No, this is a measurable quantity of relief.
Okay, so let's unpack this specific, and let's be honest, bizarre request. A 5-pound box of money. This is where it gets complex, because she claims this gift is loaded with lots of sentiment, even though it's just cold, hard cash. I mean, is she just trying to rationalize a purely greedy request? Is that claim of sentiment even believable?
That is the pivotal question, isn't it? But I'd argue she's actually redefining sentimentality for someone who's, financially precarious. What's so fascinating is that the emotional value comes from the relief it provides.
Not from the gift itself.
Exactly, not from its inherent quality. She tells Santa that when she gets blue, she'll think of him. That's the emotional connection, the sentiment.
But then the reality check comes in immediately.
Absolutely. She doesn't stop there. The emotional connection is instantly tied to the functional benefit. She says she will, at the same time, have a little change to pay my rent.
So the sentiment isn't getting the gift. The sentiment is the feeling of not facing eviction.
Yes, that reframes the entire idea of a holiday gift. When your basic needs, rent, food, stability, are unmet, the deepest sentiment, the most profound emotional support comes in the form of cash that secures those needs.
It's a very grounded, almost cynical view of holiday cheer, but it's also just completely true to her circumstances.
It's a radically functional claim. The money serves a dual purpose. It's an emotional reminder of the person who solved her problem, and, well, far more importantly, it's a necessary financial tool.
She's sort of presenting an inverted Maslow's hierarchy.
That's a great way to put it. You can't appreciate the love and sentiment of a thoughtful gift if you're worried about the bottom line.
And she seems so aware of the philosophical objections to prioritizing money. She tackles that head on. She admits that money isn't everything.
It then comes the punchline.
Yeah, her quick, conclusive clarification that reveals her entire worldview. It's much better with it than without it.
And the conviction in her delivery when she says that, it just grounds the whole piece. It removes any moral ambiguity about wealth. She's being ruthlessly honest about how the world works.
She's just saying, let's cut the romantic notions. This is the reality of survival. So, if that's the ask a 5-pound box of financial stability, what is she offering Santa in return? Because this deep dive also reveals a surprisingly transactional relationship with the North Pole. She's basically proposing a contract.
She definitely is. There's a clear conditional nature to her good behavior. It's an explicit quid pro quo. She implies her compliance, her good conduct. It all hinges on Santa meeting her financial request.
So she says she could be real good and not do nothing funny.
If Santa delivers the currency, it's a fascinating behavioral bargain. She's essentially saying, you alleviate my financial instability, and I will be able to maintain stability in my behavior.
Which suggests that her potential to do nothing funny is directly tied to her financial stress.
It's a very nuanced social observation. Financial hardship often forces people into tough situations, compromises they wouldn't otherwise make.
So by funding her stability, Santa removes the need for those compromises.
It's an investment in her future morality, paid up front.
And she doesn't just ask once. She gets so enthusiastic, so confident in this proposal, that she starts issuing these clear commands to Santa.
Exactly. She doesn't just gently suggest it. She challenges him to test her resolve. The repetition is key here. It shows this urgency and confidence.
Try me, try me, try me on that money. Just try me, honey.
She is fully confident that if he gives her that box, the reward, her good behavior, her stability will be worth the £5.
And what's the larger payoff for her, beyond just paying the bills? What does this actually stabilize?
She connects the request to the biggest picture possible, her whole outlook on life. The new year would be so bright and sunny if she receives this simple thing.
So the financial relief isn't just a temporary fix.
No, it transforms her entire horizon. It lets her look forward to the future without dread.
Okay, so the transition from this abstract relief to concrete specifications is where she goes from being a dreamer to being an accountant.
Yes.
Once she's established a core request, a 5-pound box, she moves to the logistics. Because, not all pounds of money are created equal.
This is where we get the technical specs that really underline the purpose. It's not just cash. She needs a 5-pound box of tens.
Tens? Why tens?
Well, this specifies the denomination she needs for maximum utility and liquidity. She doesn't want $1,000 bills, which are hard to break. She doesn't want pennies.
Yes.
She wants the perfect working-class denomination.
That makes so much sense. The $10 bill is the unit of exchange for groceries, for small debts, for immediate transactions. It highlights her need for fungibility.
Right. If she were asking for a 5-pound box of $100 bills, that would suggest a savings goal. The 10 suggest immediate necessary spending.
And she connects this directly to her financial difficulty with the phrase, "Help me meet both ends, yes indeed."
And that's the clearest indication yet of the acute underlying need, that old Pearl been needin' bad. That single line just grounds the entire track. It moves it from a jazzy novelty tune to an urgent rhetorical plea for financial aid.
It's incredibly effective because the specificity of the tens and the weight, it just makes the need so tangible. She's not talking about abstract wealth.
No, she's talking about bridging a very real, very immediate gap in her monthly budget.
And she even anticipates Santa's, potential skepticism about the logistics of it all.
She does. She immediately addresses the weight, making her request sound like a totally reasonable shipping calculation. Really? How much could that weigh?
She's forcing this mythical figure, Santa, into a discussion of physical reality and resource management.
Yes, she's grounding the whole fantastical Christmas mechanism in the mundane reality of weight and measure.
It's like she's saying, don't tell me you can cross the world in one night, but you can't lift 5 pounds of tens.
Precisely. She is challenging the premise of the magical operation by introducing practical physics.
But this is where it gets really interesting, though. Because once she's asked for the 5 pounds, she immediately identifies a critical flaw in her initial budget planning.
Yes. This isn't just an ask, it's a moment of strategic financial scaling.
It's an instant, brilliant moment of escalation, and it happens mid-sentence.
She catches herself and changes the weight right away. With a 5-pound, no, I better increase that 10 pounds. She doubles her request on the spot, realizing the opportunity cost of asking too small.
That is such a human moment, that realization that you have to maximize the opportunity right in front of you. And her reasoning is just darkly humorous and so pragmatic. I better beg big while I'm begging.
She understands the scarcity principle perfectly. When you have the attention of a resource provider, especially a mythical one who only shows up once a year, you have to secure maximum relief.
But the reason she gives for this increase, that's what really stops you in your tracks.
Shifts the tone completely.
It does. She justifies the 10 pounds with this blunt, fatalistic acknowledgement of life's unpredictability and her own mortality. She says she might not catch you next year.
And then the line. Because sometimes people go out and you don't see them no more. That is the deepest analytical insight hidden in the piece. This is no longer a lighthearted negotiation. It is an urgent attempt to secure enough money to overcome hardship before her limited time runs out.
So she's factoring her own mortality into her Christmas wish list. She's recognizing this opportunity might not come again.
She's essentially thinking about inflation, scarcity, and her own limited window of opportunity to make this ask. It transforms the humor into high-stakes drama.
It absolutely does. And this high-stakes pragmatism is clearest when she gets to the traditional idea of long-term wealth building, specifically the money tree analogy,
Which she just dismisses out of hand.
the remarkable rejection of abstract wealth. She explicitly rejects the whole money tree concept, asking, what good is that big thing to me?
And this raises such an important point about her view of wealth. The money tree represents passive income, long-term growth, systemic stability,
Things that require patience.
deferred gratification. And Pearl Bailey is saying she doesn't have the time or the stability to wait for a return on investment. The infrastructure of wealth is totally useless to her right now.
She only values liquidity and immediate cash flow. And she spells it out. She tells Santa, you keep the branches, the trunk, and the roots.
That phrase just underscores her laser focus on immediate usable wealth. She only wants just a little bit of the fruit.
The fruit.
She only values the direct consumable product, the $10 bills that meet her ends, not the complex, slow-growing system that produces the money. It's the ultimate statement from someone focused entirely on urgent survival.
It's an amazing analogy for someone who needs to pay the rent today. The trunk and the roots are just useless weight. She needs the fruit right now. She wraps the whole appeal up with a final emotional request for commitment, cementing the contract.
If you want to be sure I'll be yours, well, honey, honey, bunny, he needs to deliver. It's the closing argument, bringing the transactional nature right back to their personal relationship.
And then that insistent, demanding conclusion. It shows all her urgency.
The repeated question, demanding affirmation. Santa, do you hear me?
That ending is a perfect urgent crescendo. It's not a soft plea. It's a demand for acknowledgement from the power structure she's negotiating with.
So when we synthesize this deep dive into the source material, what we see is Pearl Bailey expertly blending the genres of jazz and spoken word. She creates this uniquely candid, urgent, and humorous manifesto.
She quantifies sentiment through weight 5 pounds, escalating to 10, and she specifies liquidity through the denomination of tens.
Exactly.
So the core takeaway for you as the listener is that her request, while funny, is entirely focused on utility and overcoming acute, very real financial hardship.
This isn't just about fun holiday spending.
Not at all. It's about survival, but delivered with this radical honesty and unparalleled swagger. She literally needs to pay my rent and meet both ends.
And this leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to mull over. Considering the depth of the practical financial need in these lyrics and that explicit rejection of slow-growing wealth, the money tree,
Right.
does the specificity of asking for a 10-pound box of tens make the overall wish more or less romantic than a traditional vague holiday request for, say, happiness? Is radical honesty about necessity maybe the most profound kind of sentimentality?